The ER doors slammed open. A Navy SEAL barely alive, chest bleeding, lungs collapsing, hit the floor. Alarms screamed, machines flatlined, and the surgeon was stuck in traffic. Everyone froze, except a rookie nurse. Her hands moved faster than fear, faster than protocol, and in that moment, she became the difference between life and death. Jordan Whitman had been on the floor for barely 2 years, but she'd trained herself to see the patterns others couldn't. She barely glanced at the monitors before dropping to the SEAL's side. His helmet dented, blood slicking his face, pulse thready and fading by the second. Airway first, 4 lines stat. Clamp the chest wound, she barked, voice cutting through the chaos. The residents and nurses scrambled, but Jordan was already in motion. She didn't wait for permission. If she did, he wouldn't last another minute. The first few seconds were a blur. Hands gloved, fingers finding the correct instruments. Jordan worked like she'd rehearsed this 1,000 times, though she hadn't. One hand on the airway, one on the chest, adrenaline fused with training in a seamless rhythm. "Monitor," she shouted, checking the beeping machines, adjusting the oxygen flow. "Prep blood. Start transfusion." A resident hesitated beside her. "We can't." "He will die if we wait," Jordan interrupted, eyes sharp, voice steady. No argument followed. They had no choice but to trust her instincts, though the weight of inexperience hung heavily in the air. Around them, the trauma bay erupted, stretchers rolling, monitors screaming, paramedics shouting vitals over one another. The smell of antiseptic mixed with blood, the sound of wheels clanging against the tile, the high-pitched beeps of the monitors. It all collided into a chaos that would have frozen most seasoned nurses. Jordan didn't flinch. She had memorized the layout of every tray, every kit, every critical tool on this floor. Her hands moved automatically. The chest wound needed decompression. The oxygen was dangerously low. One misstep and the SEAL would flatline in front of dozens of witnesses. She pressed the needle into his chest, released the trapped air, and the faint hiss of relief was the only sound that cut through the cacophony for a heartbeat. Minutes passed in rapid succession. Another stretcher arrived, carrying a young soldier with abdominal trauma, internal bleeding, vitals unstable. Jordan barely glanced up. "He's mine," she said, voice calm, assertive. Her orders were precise, almost surgical in their delivery. Clamp, transfuse, stabilize. A senior nurse paused. "You're calling that? I'm calling life support," Jordan replied, hands moving without hesitation. The room shifted. It wasn't trust yet. It was instinct. The chaos started moving around her instead of against her. Residents and nurses alike deferred to her, understanding that she wasn't acting recklessly. She was acting with purpose, and every second counted. The SEAL flatlined again. Jordan's hands didn't hesitate. She slammed the paddles down, chest compressions starting immediately. "Clear," she shouted. 1, 2, 3 beats. The monitor beeped back to life. Relief rippled through the room, but it was brief. Another stretcher hit the doors. A paramedic yelling over the noise, blood covering the floor. Jordan's mind raced. 7 patients in total, 7 lives hanging in the balance. By 9:15 a.m., the second patient stabilized. By 9:22, the third. Each time, Jordan moved with uncanny precision, checking vitals, adjusting oxygen, calling out orders before anyone else could formulate the questions. It wasn't arrogance. It was necessity. Seconds saved were lives saved. Someone muttered under their breath, "How does she know that?" Jordan didn't look up. She didn't need to. She saw the room as a map, the patients as moving pieces, and every decision a potential pivot between life and death. The trauma bay was a symphony of controlled chaos. Jordan worked from patient to patient, never stopping, never hesitating. A 4th stretcher arrived, head trauma compounded by multiple fractures. The resident hesitated. Jordan shook her head. "If we move him now, he dies. Stabilize him here. We adapt." The words barely landed before she was already inserting a line. monitoring intracranial pressure, instructing the team with authority far beyond her years. Somewhere in the middle of it all, the surgeon finally arrived, out of breath, coat disheveled. He took in the scene, monitors stabilizing, blood on the floor, the team following Jordan's lead. What happened?" he whispered. One nurse answered quietly, "She did it." Jordan didn't pause. The SEAL's pulse was improving, oxygen creeping up, but there was no time to rest. The trauma bay's rhythm hadn't slowed, and it couldn't. The fifth patient hit the floor, massive burns from an explosion during a training exercise. Jordan assessed quickly. Airway compromised, fluids low, vitals dropping. "We don't have time for imaging." "We act now," she instructed. Hands moved almost automatically as if rehearsed. Burns, fluids, airway, all stabilized in tandem.
By 9:40 a.m., 5 lives were stabilized.
Jordan's blue scrubs were soaked with sweat and blood. Her hair clung to her forehead. Every breath she took was measured, but her eyes were calm, scanning, always moving to the next crisis. She was exhausted, but she couldn't show it. Not now. Not when seconds meant survival. The sixth patient arrived, a soldier with compound fractures and internal bleeding. Protocol would have sent him straight to imaging. Jordan shook her head. "We don't have that luxury. Stabilize here. Clamp, transfuse, monitor airway." The resident protested. "That's not procedure." Jordan met his eyes. "Neither is losing him." The words landed like a drumbeat across the room. Silence following for a heartbeat before movement resumed. By 9:50 a.m., 6 patients stabilized. The 7th arrived moments later, the most critical yet. Multiple trauma, airway compromised, massive blood loss. Even the surgeon paused. Jordan didn't. She assessed once, twice, and acted. The room held its collective breath. Every hand moved at her direction. Every monitor beep a testament to her command. And then, finally, the last monitor steadied. 7 lives, hanging in the balance less than an hour ago, now stabilized because one rookie nurse refused to hesitate. The chaos had subsided just enough for relief to ripple through the room, but Jordan didn't relax. Not yet. Before she could even process it, the automatic doors opened again. 2 men walked in, suits black as night, badges flashing. FBI. Not here for the patients, here for her. The room went silent. Every monitor beep, every stretcher wheel, every whispered word seemed to fade into nothing. Jordan's hands went still for the first time that hour. Her heart pounded, but her face remained calm. She understood immediately. The life-saving battle wasn't over. Another kind of test had just begun. And that's where the story pauses. At the moment, the rookie nurse who just defied every expectation now faces a shadow from her past that could change everything. The 2 men in black suits moved with precision, unhurried, but every step carried authority. The trauma bay, still echoing with alarms and monitor beeps, seemed to shrink around them. Nurses instinctively stepped back. Residents froze mid-motion. Jordan stood in the center of the room, blood on her sleeves, heart hammering, but her expression calm. She had faced life and death for 7 patients in under an hour. She could face these men too. One of the agents finally spoke, voice low, controlled. "Jordan Whitman?" "I'm Jordan," she said evenly, hands still gloved, eyes scanning the room. She knew they weren't here for the patients. She could feel it, something in their posture. The cold precision told her this was about her. The taller agent pulled out a leather wallet, badge flashed. "FBI, we need to speak with you. Now." Jordan's pulse didn't quicken, but her mind raced. "You're in a hospital. People are dying, recovering, terrified. You don't come in here and demand someone leave for questioning. Not like this." The agent's eyes didn't waver. "We're not here for a negotiation. This is urgent." The room had gone completely silent. Even the monitors seemed to pause in anticipation. Paramedics froze, stretching for their next task, unsure whether to obey or step aside. Residents whispered among themselves. Why the FBI? Who is she? Jordan felt the weight of 100 unspoken questions settle on her shoulders, but she refused to flinch. The shorter agent stepped forward, tablet in hand. We don't have time for explanations outside this room. There are inconsistencies in your record. Activities, training, operations that don't align with your civilian history. Jordan's jaw tightened. Her mind raced back through the 5 years she had spent erased. Missions nobody should have known about, operations that were supposed to disappear from every record. She'd come back to save lives, not to answer questions from men who knew nothing of the realities she had survived. I saved lives today. 7, she said. I followed every protocol where it counted. What's your point? The taller agent didn't answer. Instead, he gestured to a small consultation room near administration. Come with us, now. Jordan paused. The patients, the nurses, the trauma bay now quiet but still fragile. Every second she delayed could be critical. But she understood instinctively this wasn't about the patients anymore. This was about her past catching up to her. She nodded once, carefully removing her gloves, washing her hands in the nearby station sink while keeping her eyes on the agents. Fine, but one thing, she said. If anyone touches a patient or interferes, I stop answering questions. The agents didn't flinch. They led her down the corridor. Hallways that had just been chaotic now seemed sterile, empty, tense. Every step she took echoed, a stark reminder of how quickly order could turn into chaos. Or worse, danger. Inside the consultation room, the agents motioned for her to sit. The taller one leaned against the wall, arms crossed, voice calm but clipped. For the record, this conversation is voluntary. Jordan folded her hands in her lap. Voluntary? You just locked down a hospital. You're calm, but don't think I don't know what kind of resources the FBI can deploy. I'm listening, but voluntary my ass. The shorter agent finally swiped the tablet toward her, revealing a series of timestamps, procedures, decisions. Her hands paused slightly. These were her actions today: chest decompression, rapid transfusions, airway stabilization. Every single move logged. And yet, alongside them, anomalies in her record glared back at her. Gaps in employment, gaps in training, operations that officially didn't exist. You performed like someone trained for combat medicine, the taller agent said. Not civilian hospitals, not standard nursing school. Field triage under fire, improvised stabilization techniques, all executed flawlessly. Jordan's fingers clenched. You think I'm some anomaly. I'm not. I know what I did today, and I saved lives. End of story. The shorter agent shook his head. No, you were trained somewhere else. Somewhere official records don't acknowledge. Your file triggered alerts when your name appeared in trauma logs this morning. This is not routine, Jordan. Her throat tightened. Every word, every pause from these agents felt like a probe, pressing into memories she had buried deep. 5 years erased, missions gone, comrades lost, identities scrubbed. She had returned to civilian life, hoping to vanish quietly, to make herself invisible again. Instead, she had re-emerged in the most visible, high-stakes way possible. Operation Blackthorn. The taller agent said, almost as a test. Jordan froze, just for a fraction of a second. That name hadn't been spoken outside her unit in years. She didn't answer. She simply looked at the agents, measuring, weighing. Blackthorn, the shorter agent pressed. Do you recognize it? Jordan leaned back slightly, keeping her voice even. Recognition doesn't matter. It's history, irrelevant. The taller agent stepped closer, voice low, deliberate. Not irrelevant if people are still alive because of it. Your team, the ones who went missing, what you did, who you saved, it matters. It matters enough to trigger a federal alert today. A flicker of anger passed through her eyes. I didn't disappear because I wanted to. I disappeared because I had to survive. We were declared dead, wiped off the record. I didn't walk away, I was erased. The agents exchanged glances, the weight of their silence almost tangible. Jordan could feel the tension pressing against her ribs like an invisible hand. She straightened in the chair, refusing to let fear take hold. Outside the room, footsteps echoed. Nurses moved cautiously past the hallway, whispering in low tones. Patients were stabilized, but the room's energy had shifted. Something deeper was at stake now. This wasn't about medicine, protocol, or even heroism. This was about the truth of who Jordan Whitman was, and who she had been. The taller agent finally leaned back. "You've resurfaced at the exact moment that makes 7 lives today more than just coincidence. It's proof. Proof of capability, of skill, of survival against impossible odds." Jordan didn't speak. She let the words settle. Each syllable, each pause from the agents, reinforced what she already knew. Her past had caught up, and saving lives today was only the beginning of the consequences she had to face. The room felt smaller, the air heavier, every breath measured. The agent's eyes never left her, and somewhere deep inside, a clock began ticking. Not the trauma bay clock, not the ER monitors, something older, something unrelenting, measuring time since the moment she had vanished and the moment she reappeared. Before anyone could speak again, a low alarm pulsed from the security system. Jordan's head snapped toward the door instinctively. Not a medical alarm, something else, something real. Someone was moving in the hospital, and it wasn't here for the patients. The shorter agent's hand moved subtly toward a concealed earpiece. "Unidentified personnel approaching," he said. "North Wing, Level 2. Jordan's body reacted before her mind caught up. Muscles coiled, breath steady. She had been trained for this. She had lived for this. And in that moment she understood fully, saving lives today had been only the first battle. The second, far more dangerous, had just begun. The low alarm pulsed again, a heartbeat in the quiet of the consultation room. Jordan's eyes narrowed. She could feel the weight of the FBI agents beside her, but instinct overrode caution. Her hands twitched, ready to move, ready to react. She had faced life and death before, but this was different. The enemy wasn't bleeding, wasn't gasping for air. It was calculated, precise, and unseen. The taller agent spoke, voice tight. "They're moving fast. Could be anyone, internal or external." Jordan didn't answer. Her gaze flicked to the tablet, scrolling through trauma logs, timestamps, everything she had done in the past hour. 7 lives saved. 7 lives that, if lost now, would make her actions today meaningless. She couldn't let that happen. Not again. A soft click echoed from the hallway. Jordan froze. The agents tensed. Security doors began locking automatically. Overhead lights flickered briefly, a subtle warning. The hospital was sealing itself like a trap. One of the agents leaned in. North Wing. 2 personnel, unidentified, moving with purpose. Jordan's mind ran through the possibilities. Could it be someone from her old unit? Or one of the people who had tried to erase them 5 years ago? Her pulse didn't spike, but her instincts screamed. She had taught some of these tactics herself. She knew how to read movement, predict paths, anticipate timing. "Stay calm," she muttered under her breath, more to herself than anyone else. But the calm was deceptive. Inside, her adrenaline coiled, ready to spring. The shorter agent finally spoke, voice clipped. "We need to move quickly. We can't let them reach the trauma bay." Jordan's head snapped toward him. "The patients? Stable for now," he said, but his eyes were serious. "Not if someone starts moving beds or interfering with medical equipment. We don't have time for delay." Jordan exhaled slowly, decision made. She pushed herself up from the chair. "Then we move. But I lead." The agents didn't protest. They had learned quickly that Jordan's instincts weren't something to second guess. Together, they moved down the corridor. Each step was measured. The hallway seemed longer, darker, more dangerous than it had 5 minutes ago. Jordan could feel every heartbeat, every whisper of movement, every shadow brushing against her peripheral vision. They rounded the corner near the ICU entrance. A nurse was moving a stretcher, looking terrified. Jordan stopped, hand raised. "Go slow. Follow my lead. Keep them safe." The nurse nodded, eyes wide, and complied. Jordan's gaze swept the corridor. Nothing obvious, nothing yet, but she could feel it. Someone was watching, calculating, waiting for a mistake. A sudden movement caught her eye, a figure, plain clothes, gliding past the security camera's blind spot. Jordan's breath tightened. She signaled the agents silently. Both agents reacted instantly, moving to block exits, weapons concealed but ready. Jordan crept forward, scanning every corner. Adrenaline sharpened her senses. The hospital no longer felt like a place of healing. It was a battlefield. Every patient, every nurse, every monitor could become collateral if she miscalculated. Ahead, a shadow paused near the ICU doors. Jordan's instinct screamed. She moved faster, but still silent. Her hand brushed the emergency radio on the wall. North Wing security. I see movement near ICU doors. Lock down all exits. No one in or out, she instructed calmly, voice steady. The radio crackled back, obedient. The shadow bolted. Jordan reacted instantly, pivoting toward it, hand reaching for the first agent to coordinate containment. The shorter agent nodded, moving to intercept. The taller agent split, heading down the parallel hallway. The trap had begun. Jordan's mind flashed to her past. Years in classified operations, missions erased from history, training that had prepared her for exactly this moment. Every movement, every decision in the trauma bay today was a warm-up for the real test, the one that had followed her from the battlefield into this civilian hospital. The figure reappeared near the corner, moving too quickly to be a civilian. Jordan flanked the agent silently, eyes on the target. In a fluid motion, she intercepted, grabbing the arm of the intruder before they could reach the ICU. "Stop!" she shouted, voice cutting through the tension like a scalpel. The intruder froze, turning. Jordan's breath slowed slightly, heart still racing. The taller agent appeared behind the figure, weapon drawn, voice low but commanding. "FBI, stand down now." The intruder hesitated, a flicker of recognition crossing their face. Jordan caught it instantly. A ghost from her past. Someone who had known her, known the unit, known what had been erased. The shorter agent moved in, securing the figure. The shadow struggled, then went still. Jordan's gaze didn't waver. She could feel it, the history, the danger, the secrets that were no longer buried. "Who sent you?" the taller agent demanded. The figure didn't answer immediately. Silence stretched, thick and suffocating. Every second a mini-eternity. Then, a whisper, "You weren't supposed to survive." Jordan's pulse didn't spike, but her mind raced. Every word, every pause, every shadow from her erased past was now converging here. She glanced at the agents, who understood instantly. This was bigger than the trauma bay, bigger than the SEAL, bigger than saving lives today. A sudden alarm blared from the ER, high-pitched, urgent. Jordan's eyes darted. Another patient, already stabilized, was showing irregular vitals. "Go!" she shouted, instincts taking over again. The agents nodded, and they moved as a unit back toward the ICU. The intruder remained restrained, but their presence hung like a dark cloud. Jordan's mind calculated every possibility, every threat, every scenario. The hospital, once a place of recovery, was now a battlefield layered over layers of secrets. As they reached the ICU corridor, Jordan's eyes caught a glimpse of the SEAL, still recovering but awake. He looked at her, confused, aware of the tension, but powerless to intervene. Jordan's heart tightened. Saving him had been only the first act. Now, the real challenge had begun. The taller agent whispered, voice sharp, "They know who you are, who you really are." Jordan's jaw tightened. She didn't answer. She only prepared. The past was here, and she was ready. The hallway seemed to stretch forever. Every step, every heartbeat, every flicker of light a countdown. She could feel the minutes slipping, the danger rising. And somewhere deep inside, she knew that the answers, the confrontation, and the secrets long buried were all waiting just ahead. The ICU corridor stretched like a tunnel of tension. Jordan's hands stayed poised, every muscle coiled, eyes scanning each shadow, every reflection in glass and steel. The faint beeping of monitors mixed with the distant wail of sirens outside, creating a rhythm that felt like a countdown. Every second counted. The taller agent motioned for her to stop. "They want to talk," he said quietly. "About you, about your past." Jordan didn't flinch. She'd faced impossible odds before. 7 lives saved in an hour wasn't a fluke. It was instinct, muscle memory, training no civilian handbook could teach. And now, those very instincts were what kept her and everyone in the hospital alive. The shorter agent tapped the intruder's restraints. "We need answers," he said, "and fast. Who sent you?" The restrained figure smirked, lips curling slightly. "You think you're the first to survive, Jordan? You weren't supposed to be here. None of you were." Jordan's eyes narrowed. Recognition hit like a thunderclap. One of her old contacts erased from history, someone who had disappeared with her unit 5 years ago. He had survived too, but now he was here with motives she couldn't yet read. The taller agent leaned in, voice tight. "Talk. Now." "I don't talk," the intruder said calmly. "Not to you, not yet. But I know who you are. The SEAL, the nurse, the ghost. You're back. And you're alive." Jordan swallowed, her mind racing. She had returned to this life to save lives, not to be interrogated by shadows from a past that should have stayed buried. And yet, here they were, proof that the past could never stay gone. Suddenly, a loud crash echoed from the ER. Someone had tried to force entry. Nurses screamed, rushing for cover. Jordan's head snapped toward the noise. She couldn't let chaos erupt. Patients depended on her. Lives were still fragile. "Move!" she shouted. The agents reacted instantly, positioning themselves between the intruder and the ER doors. Jordan's eyes darted to the SEAL, still conscious but weak, watching everything unfold with a mix of fear and trust. "Get them out," she ordered a nurse. "Secure every patient. No one leaves their room. No one interferes." The nurse nodded, voice trembling. "Yes, Jordan." The intruder laughed softly, a sound that didn't reach their eyes. "You think this is about me? It's about what you remember, what you forgot, what they erased from you." Jordan's jaw tightened. Memories she had buried deep surged. Missions gone from every record, faces she'd vowed never to see again, the ones declared dead who might still be alive. Every second that passed, the walls of the hospital seemed to close in, suffocating, pressing her toward confrontation. The taller agent spoke quietly into a radio. "Back up, secure all floors. No movement until cleared. They know she's here. They know who she is." Jordan's pulse quickened. She had anticipated threats before, trained for ambushes, calculated moves under fire. But this was different. The battlefield was unfamiliar, civilian, fragile. Every life she had sworn to protect now hung in balance. A sudden movement in the corner caught her eye. Another intruder. Fast, precise. Jordan didn't hesitate. She surged forward, intercepting, grabbing the figure's arm before they could reach a patient room. Her reflexes were flawless, practiced, and deadly efficient. The taller agent arrived seconds later, weapon ready, eyes locked on potential threats. The shorter agent secured the restrained intruder behind them. Jordan's gaze flicked to the SEAL. He was still weak, but alive. That was the one thing she had to ensure remained true. "You shouldn't be here," Jordan said to the restrained intruder, voice low but sharp. "This isn't your fight. Leave, or I will stop you." The figure smirked. "I don't leave. Not until the truth comes out. You were erased, Jordan, all of you, but today you're back. You can't run from it anymore." Her mind spun. She had survived impossible odds, kept people alive where no one else could, and now the remnants of her past were demanding answers, confrontation, exposure. Every decision today had consequences, some she could predict, some she couldn't. Suddenly, a faint beep from a nearby monitor caught her attention. One of the SEAL's vitals was dipping rapidly. Internal bleeding she hadn't noticed in the initial assessment. Jordan's body reacted instantly. She didn't think. She moved, gloves snapping back on, hands precise, confident and sure. Every movement was instinct. Clamp, pressure, reposition, stabilize. The agents watched silently, understanding that she was in command here. The intruder's smirk faltered slightly. Jordan's focus was lethal, unwavering. This was why she had survived, why she had saved 7 lives in 1 hour, and why no one could underestimate her. Not today, not ever. Minutes stretched like hours. Finally, the SEAL's monitor steadied. His chest rose and fell evenly. He was alive. Jordan straightened, eyes cold, scanning the room again. The intruder remained restrained, but the tension hadn't lifted. The taller agent finally spoke. "You've resurfaced. Today proves something. Skills, instincts, survival. But it also proves one thing. You can't hide anymore." Jordan's lips pressed into a thin line. "I'm not hiding," she said softly. "I'm here. I saved lives. That's all that matters right now." The intruder's eyes flicked between her and the agents. "You think it ends here? The past doesn't let go so easily." Jordan's jaw tightened. She knew that. She had spent years running, surviving, erasing herself from records. But today had changed. Everything. She wasn't disappearing again. Not when lives depended on her. Not when the truth demanded confrontation. A loud alarm blared throughout the hospital, the security system, triggered by multiple breaches. Jordan's eyes scanned the corridors. Patients, nurses, staff, and the SEAL. They were all in her care, and for the first time in years she realized she wasn't alone. The agents, the remaining staff, they were following her lead. Her mind moved like lightning, calculating exits, threats, and contingencies. Every step, every breath, every second mattered. This wasn't just survival anymore. It was protection. And somewhere deep inside, a truth settled. Today wasn't just about saving lives. Today was about facing what had been erased. Today was about reclaiming herself. The hospital corridors were a battlefield. Yet somehow, Jordan moved through them like water. Calm, precise, unstoppable. Every alarm, every whisper of movement, every shadow sliding past the lights was accounted for in her mind. The SEAL's life hung on her hands, and the unknown intruders had reminded her that the past never stayed buried. "North Wing secured?" Jordan asked the taller agent. He nodded. "All exits locked, personnel accounted for, no further movement detected. Yet," Jordan exhaled slowly. Her eyes scanned the ICU doors. The SEAL was stable now, but she knew that stability was fragile. Seconds could tip the scale. And that shadow from her past, restrained but still present, was proof that nothing was ever simple. "Who sent you?" she demanded, voice sharp but calm. The intruder smirked, lips curling, eyes glinting. "You think you're untouchable? You survived. You thrived. But some truths can't be buried. Not forever," he said, almost tauntingly. Jordan's gaze didn't waver. She could read him, all the movements, all the intentions, every training session, every mission erased from history, every operation that had required split-second decisions. They were all in her muscle memory. She could predict him, and she could stop him. Before she could make her move, the shorter agent whispered, almost under his breath, "This is bigger than we thought. He knows details no one should know." Jordan's jaw tightened. That was confirmation. Her erased past, the classified operations, the missions declared failed or lost, were all alive in this moment, colliding with the present. And yet, she didn't flinch. She had survived worse. A sudden noise from the end of the corridor made everyone turn. The automatic doors to the trauma bay slid open, and a new figure entered, calm, deliberate, eyes scanning the room with sharp precision. Jordan froze for the briefest second, heart tightening. Recognition hit immediately. It was someone from her unit, someone she thought she'd never see again. "You shouldn't be here," she said, voice low, but her hand stayed ready. I'm here, he replied, calm, almost gentle, because it's time. Time for the truth to come out. The agent stiffened, unsure of how to handle this new variable. Jordan's eyes flicked between the intruder and the man standing in the doorway. She realized the puzzle was now complete. The past wasn't just a shadow, it was present, breathing, and demanding answers. Explain, she said, voice steady. Her former unit member took a slow step forward. You survived, Jordan. You were erased from all records, declared dead. But the operation wasn't a failure. We survived. We waited. We watched. And today you reappeared. Saving lives in a civilian hospital brought you back into the light, the same light that buried us. Jordan's pulse quickened. She had lived with ghosts for years. Erased identities, missions erased from history, comrades declared dead. And now, here they were, proof that what she had survived wasn't just luck. It was skill, strategy, and timing. The restrained intruder suddenly laughed, a low, bitter sound. You think you're in control now? You're still playing by rules they set. The truth isn't safe. Not for you, not for any of us. Jordan stepped closer, eyes cold. I've played by their rules. I've survived by mine. And I'm not letting anyone hurt these people. Her gaze flicked to the SEAL, still bandaged but conscious, then to the nurses and staff she had commanded all morning. Not today. Not now. Not ever. The former unit member nodded, almost silently approving. The tension in the hallway was palpable. Jordan's instincts had been right. This was bigger than just saving one SEAL. This was about survival, secrecy, and reclaiming the life that had been stolen from her. Then, a sudden beep from the SEAL's monitor drew her attention. His vitals were dipping again. Internal complications she hadn't anticipated. Jordan didn't hesitate. Gloves snapped on. Hands moved with the precision of someone who had saved lives in environments where seconds meant death. Clamp. Adjust. Stabilize. Her focus narrowed. Nothing else existed but the patient, the monitors, and the rhythm of survival. By the time she stepped back, the SEAL's chest rose steadily. The agents exhaled audibly, tension finally breaking slightly. Jordan's eyes flicked back to the intruders. She had controlled the moment, stabilized the chaos, and proven that she was in command. Your skills, the taller agent began, voice careful. They're extraordinary. You've handled more than any civilian nurse could ever be expected to. Jordan didn't respond immediately. She glanced at the SEAL. She glanced at the restrained intruder. Then back at her former comrade. Everything clicked. The past, the present, the risks, they were all part of one equation, and she was done hiding. I'm not just a nurse, she said quietly, almost to herself, almost to the world. I've always been more. And not disappearing again. The restrained intruder's smirk faltered. The taller agent's eyes widened slightly, understanding dawning. Jordan had survived more than training and missions. She had survived erasure, abandonment, and secrecy. And she had returned, not for revenge, not for recognition, but because saving lives was what defined her. The former unit member stepped forward. You did what no one else could. You reappeared. You protected lives that weren't even yours. And now the world has to catch up. Jordan's gaze softened for the first time all morning. The SEAL's eyes met hers, a silent thanks passing between them. Lives were saved. The hospital was secure. The threats contained. And yet, the truth of her past was now acknowledged. The agent straightened, realizing that the impossible had been accomplished. Jordan wasn't just a nurse. She was a force of nature, a survivor, a protector. And she had done the unthinkable, saved a dying SEAL, navigated a lockdown, confronted shadows from her erased past, and reclaimed her identity. Jordan finally allowed herself to exhale. For the first time in years, she felt lighter. Not because the danger was over. She knew it never truly was, but because she had faced it, controlled it, and survived it. The taller agent lowered his voice. "You've proven something today. Extraordinary." Jordan nodded slightly. "I've always known who I am," she said. "I just let the world forget for a while. But today I didn't forget. And neither will they." The camera of the story lingers on Jordan walking down the ICU corridor. Steady, calm, hands slightly stained from life-saving work, eyes forward. Behind her, the SEAL sits upright, awake, safe. Around her, the hospital staff watch with a mixture of awe and gratitude. And somewhere in the shadows, the past lingers, acknowledged, controlled, but never forgotten. Hours later, the hospital returned to a fragile calm. The alarm silenced, the lockdown lifted. But for Jordan, nothing was the same. She had faced the impossible, survived scrutiny, confronted ghosts, and in the process, saved lives and herself. And as she steps out of the ICU, she whispers, almost to herself, "I'm not running anymore." Did you feel the intensity of what Jordan went through? Comment below with your favorite moment and let us know. Could you have stayed calm under that pressure? Don't forget to hit subscribe and turn on notifications, because stories like this, unsung heroes facing impossible odds, don't just inspire, they remind us what courage really looks like. Share this video with someone who needs to see what true resilience is. And remember, sometimes the people you least expect are the ones saving lives behind the scenes.